Um, so it's actually quite warm in California right now, which usually it's like 68 degrees and perfect weather. We've got all the fans on in the house and I'm sweating in the house. Feels like Texas. But yeah, so this is a webinar titled What is BirthFit? And we've actually never done anything live like this, or maybe it's been about a year since the last sort of live thing we've done, just because so many things have been happening in person. And, we've got a great new group of people following us. Maybe women are on their second pregnancy. Maybe women are going through the postpartum period. So let's talk about it. Let's get it all out in the open. For many of you that have either, hold on, let me make sure my internet is stable before we dive deep into this. Take a pause. Okay, it might pause my face for a second, but hold on 2 seconds. All right, are we back in business? Good. Okay, so if you have any questions along the way, let me know. You can type them on the side or save them for the end. I will definitely ask if anybody has questions at the end. And I know there's quite a few people that could not make today that are asking for a recording, so I may shoot them this recording and give them a little peek into this. But if you've been to any BirthFit events, you know that we talk about kind of the history of birth in America and how that has come about. There's two really good books that we love to use, and one is called Lying In, and the other, I always forget the name of it. It might be Childbirth in America or Made in America. I think that's what it's called. And it talks about childbirth, maternity care practices that are common in the United States and basically how we got to where we are. So, for instance, one of the things that was super enlightening to me was that the first epidural study was in 1993. If you think back what you were doing in 1993, like I was in, I think, middle school, maybe 8th grade, and this was the year of the OJ trial. Maybe it was 94, but it was around that time. This is when the World Wide Web launched. This is when the movie Dazed and Confused came out. So 1993 was a big year. However, they stopped, or the people that were conducting the epidural study, they stopped the epidural study basically because majority of the participants were having a C-section, a major abdominal surgery. So they deemed the study unethical and decided not to continue with it. Now, since then, there have been a few studies that have actually studied the side effects of epidurals, and you can find that information online. But I think the enlightening or the eye-opening experience there was that it was 1993 and then they stopped the study. So if you think about that, that's maybe, if I can do my math correctly, almost 30 years ago. So that's not a lot of time to not only see direct effects of an epidural, but even generational effects of an epidural. So just keep that in mind. We get into more history and stuff, like if you've ever taken our prenatal series, if you've taken our BirthFit coach seminar, or even our professional seminar, or even if you come into the office to see some of us, we just dive deep into some of that. So when was BirthFit started? BirthFit was started in 2011. I started this as a blog, and basically it was just my opinion. For those of you that don't know anything about me, I come from a sports kind of orthopedic background, and my goal was to be an orthopedic surgeon. However, I had three really big milestones that basically enlightened me throughout my life. And one of those milestones happened while I was in college, and I was studying abroad. I was I was experiencing abroad, let's say that. And I was in Tanzania, Africa, and a mom had brought her son to me. And by this point in my life, I was still on that pre-med track, and I had signed up for med school, taken the MCAT, got accepted. So we were doing the thing. And the mom brought her son to me, and he was paralyzed on one side of his body and basically had seizures every now and then. So long story short, which if I ever see you in person, I definitely share this story. But long story short is we didn't have the tools to help this mom in that situation or to help this child in that situation. All we had was some medication that would basically kind of knock him out whenever he was experiencing those seizures. We didn't have anything to offer him as far as being paralyzed or having no use of his left side of his body. We didn't really investigate how or why that was the case. And basically, this mom had come, like walked 2 hours to see us, and the doctors that were overseeing us had really nothing to offer her. So that's when I decided, okay, we need to rethink this pharmaceutical drug route and figure out life in a different way. Because for me, I wanted to help that child so bad, and I didn't know what to do. Well, knowing what I know now, I could have offered this child, some developmental kinesiology exercises that we incorporate into some of our training. I could have taught this mom some mindset tools, some practices, and, really supported her. But what I did at the time was inform this mom that she could take the medication or she did not have to. It was her choice. And her son's the same person. His spirit's not any different, but he needs the love that you can give him. So that's where I come from. And instead of going to med school, I decided to go to chiropractic school, still on that orthopedic route. And I went all through chiropractic school thinking I was going to be a great sports doctor. And then I exited chiropractic school. I worked down at the Olympic Training Center. I worked on set, traveling the world. And, life kind of just stopped me in my tracks and told me that I was going to go the birth route. So that's basically how my path got started. It's definitely the super short version. But in 2009, 2010, I started taking all kinds of birth classes, sitting with, attending births for any patient of mine, any mom that wanted me to. And out of that came just my experience and my lens, my goggles on the world. And I realized that how we are approaching motherhood and how we are approaching birth is just a little backwards, or in a better sentence, maybe we're not giving moms and women the tools that they need in order to empower and educate them to take on that motherhood transition. So I just started writing this blog, and women just started coming out of the woodworks and saying, yes, this makes sense. Thank you for saying that. Da, da, da. Women from all over the US started saying, hey, how can I be a part of that? And that's basically how Birthfit was started. Birthfit North Carolina, who's Dr. Lindsay Muma, was one of the first affiliates, now called regional directors. But she reached out to me and said, hey, I just had my first baby. This stuff is brilliant. We've got to get this to more moms. And from there, we grew. So out of that, we made a definition of what is Birthfit. And I would say this definition basically came stamped, hard, ingrained, probably around 2013. Birthfit is an educated and empowered state of readiness specific to childbirth that is achieved through an evolved practice in fitness, nutrition, chiropractic, and mindset. My fingers don't bend. Definitely, those 4 pillars are huge to us. And throughout our experience, and I say our experiences, Birthfit team, so we have a huge team of around 45 regional directors now. But in the beginning, there were 6 of us, and then there was 15, and then there was 25. But at least with the OGs, I call them, the 6. Some of us are doulas. Some of us are moms of 4, moms of 3, moms of 2. And many of us are chiropractors. Many of us are strength and conditioning coaches. But through our experiences, we have noticed and witnessed that the women that employ all 4 of those pillars, fitness, nutrition, chiropractic, and mindset, they have a much more satisfying and loving and just successful birth experience in their opinion. And their opinion is what matters. So that said, let's take into account, like if I'm a doula for a mom, I will work with her through her pregnancy. And then on the other side of things, whether it's vaginal birth, cesarean birth, vaginal birth in the hospital, vaginal birth at home, elective cesarean, cesarean after 2 days, or emergency C-section, I will always go talk to the mom within 2 weeks and ask her basically how everything panned out, how she feels, and just get her to kind of process her birth story. And without a doubt, no matter what type of birth a woman experiences, if she's employed all 4 of those pillars to some degree during her pregnancy, then she will view the birth experience as successful and empowering, and just have a much more, I want to say, holistic outcome or approach of that birth. And this is true of any birth. So that's where the 4 pillars have come in: fitness, nutrition, chiropractic, and mindset. And yes, you have got to employ all 4 pillars in order to be birth fit. And I used to take on doula clients that would say, I'm good. I've never tried chiropractic. I don't really believe in it. Not for me. Well, I'll tell you a story. I had one mom that stalled out after 2 days of labor at about 6 or 7 centimeters. She was a dancer all throughout her life. The only previous injury she ever had was something going on in her right hip. After I spoke to her and talked to her about her birth, and I did not suggest anything at all, but after I spoke to her, she really regretted not trying chiropractic. So chiropractic can be anything. It can be once a week. It can be every 2 weeks. It can be every 4 weeks. But to some degree, all 4 pillars must be employed or integrated into your lifestyle choices in order to be birth fit. So let's go over them. Fitness. Our definition of fitness is to functionally train in a way that develops competencies and physical skills such as strength, range of motion, balance, stamina, and endurance, as well as enhancing the 3 metabolic pathways. So you might recognize those 5 physical skills we said, and they're taken from the greater list of 10 physical skills, which if you've ever been to the CrossFit Level 1 or Dynamex, both of them talk about those 10 physical skills. Now, strength, range of motion, aka flexibility, we just prefer the terminology range of motion better. Balance, stamina, and endurance are all things that we deem a priority instead of the other 5 while training sports specific for labor and delivery or your birth. The other things are great skills to develop, such as accuracy, but maybe they're not so relevant for this sport, being birth. Now, much of our approach comes from developmental kinesiology, functional fitness, biomechanics. Many of us are trained in DNS, which is dynamic neuromuscular stabilization. And this is where we hold the breath and the diaphragm and everything deep down in the core, so near and dear to our hearts. So for us, the breath connects the physical with the non-physical. And if we have somebody that's coming in and maybe they're on my chiropractic table and they're breathing through their chest, then we know that there is a dysfunction in their core. That little sign right there is evident that they don't know how to create intra-abdominal pressure. They maybe don't know how to access their diaphragm for a legit deep breath. So first things first, we've got to learn to breathe. Our diaphragm is a muscle, just like our bicep, just like our hamstring, just like other muscles on our body. This is the reason why we love DNS so much. From there, we take the approach into just developmental kinesiology, into regular biomechanics, motor patterns, and we evolve and build from there. There's no, if you've ever seen our functional progression, which is on YouTube, then you've been exposed to some developmental kinesiology. And look at this, and then maybe buy the book, Baby Moves, and you'll see how that is so related to how a baby learns to move in space. And a baby learns to move through outside stimulus, internal motivation. And that's what we have to bring back to mom, to human beings, and especially during that postpartum period. So check out the functional progression, and that's probably the basis of all functional movements. But it's something we constantly evolve on, and we can evolve until the end of time, basically. It's not anything that will check a box and say, oh, you've mastered functional progression 1. Nope, that's not it. So those are the things we look for in fitness. We also like to train in a triplanar movement pattern sequencing, triplanar and triphasic. For some of us, we've been exposed only to the CrossFit world, and I love CrossFit. We own a CrossFit gym, but when we're training for birth and labor and delivery, we have to keep in mind that birth does not happen just in one plane. So that's why we train in all 3 planes, the coronal, the sagittal, God, I totally forgot them. But we train in all 3 planes, and that happens within our training, either in our warm-ups or in our accessory movements. So front to back, side to side, and oblique. We also train triphasic. So this means eccentric, concentric, and isometric. So just as important as it is to lift a deadlift off the ground, you've got to be able to set that deadlift bar back on the ground. We never drop a deadlift from the top. That's just one example. You're only as strong as your weakest link. So if you've ever read anything by Cal Dietz, he coined the term triphasic. So Google him, check him out. But he talks about why it's so important to train triphasic. So put that together, triphasic, triplanar, and we're training in all 3 range of motions. We're training in all 3 muscle activations. And then we're also training breath and developmental kinesiology and basic movement patterns. And then we add load, we add strength, we enhance range of motion, we train endurance, we train stamina. So that's all under the fitness category. We go into detail with fitness at our BirthFit coach seminar, which we're taking a little break from until August. But for those of you that are interested, definitely come. It's such an experience. I will tell you that recovery is key. So when we are talking to a mom, training a mom, working with a mom, whether it's prenatal or postpartum, recovery days are in the programming. Prenatally, they're in there minimum 2 days a week. So if you are thinking about getting pregnant or you just found out you're pregnant, then I encourage you to start implementing or integrating those recovery days, because sometimes it's just creating that habit to get into those recovery days. All right. That's fitness. We can definitely answer some questions on that a bit later. Oh, I do want to add one thing. I have notes scattered all over the place, but once we find out a woman is pregnant, then we take out toes to bar sit-ups, GHD sit-ups, mountain climbers in planks, and anything with extreme flexion of the trunk. So once conception happens, mom is fully pregnant. There's no halfway being pregnant or 50%, 60%. Once conception happens, mom's fully pregnant. So we've got to shift the mindset into training for birth. And unfortunately, sit-ups, crunches, those things are actually the worst ab exercises out there. So we just do away with those, and basically we don't allow those at least until after 6 to 9 months postpartum at the minimum, but ideally a year. So write that down. I know that's like, for some women, that's a what? But there's a ton of other ab exercises out there, but we hate to use that word. We say core exercises, and it starts with the breath, honestly. So that's what I'll say about fitness. Then you get into nutrition. Our definition for nutrition includes to consume a diet that is rich in color and nutrients from a wide variety of animals, fish, fruits, fats, and starchy fibers. This is huge because as many of us have been exposed to either the paleo diet or the Whole30, we have been witness, at least maybe tried it on ourselves or seen it in the gym setting or somewhere, but we've seen how the power of what we put within our body can create inflammation or get rid of inflammation. This is huge. So if we're preparing for birth, then we've got to be aware of what we put into our body and what we put on our body. And the more inflamed the inside of us, like our insides are, then the more yellow flags, red flags that are going to be created in standard prenatal testing procedures, more aches and pains just throughout the musculoskeletal system. And then going into labor and delivery, the vaginal tissue will be inflamed. So the more you can be aware of and make conscious choices surrounding the food, is it effective? Is it not effective? Is what I'm doing enhancing my body and that I'm consuming or putting on? Then that's gonna have such a great benefit. I will talk about a little bit of, people always ask me about supplements. And for any of us on the BirthFit team, we will always recommend that you get a blood test, a complete blood panel, and go with a functional medicine doc, a nutritional therapist, and have somebody guide you through basically figuring out what supplements are best for you. This is not something where I would take advice off of the internet or in a Facebook group or from girlfriend, sister, woman next door, just because we're all so unique and individual. And our bodies fluctuate a lot. As women, we go through cycles. The world revolves around on cycles. The moon goes in cycles. So having your blood tested at least once a year gives you a window as to what's going on within your body. So a complete blood panel can be anywhere from $500 to $700, which is definitely expensive. But keep in mind, maybe don't buy a purse or a pair of shoes or something, or put $10 away every week. And slowly that will add up because you're investing in your future with that. And I promise, when I started doing blood tests every year, that was one of the biggest just eye-opening experiences that I had into my own health. Now, that said, most women will end up taking a prenatal vitamin. And on that prenatal vitamin or whatever supplement you're taking, I want you to make sure it says methylfolate or M-methylfolate. If anything says folic acid, it's usually a synthetic version of folate. So that's just my 2 cents there, and other people will tell you the same. Yeah, so write that down. Fish oil is a big one. We work really closely with Original Nutritionals, and they always offer like a 10 to 15% discount if you use the code BIRTHFIT. It is a very clean fish oil, and I highly recommend it. They also have things like nut butter that you can put in your hospital bag. It's like really good fats, snacks for labor, or snacks for the gym. And they also have a whey goat protein that's very clean. We're not opposed to using protein powders or anything like that. But when you can, try to eat real food after you work out. Real food is always the preferred option. Meats, fish, vegetables, starches, those kind of things. If you are taking a protein powder, then make sure you know the ingredients. There's a ton of supplement companies that have protein powders that are just loaded with sugar, and that doesn't do anybody any good. And don't just look at their labeling, but Google it. I've definitely been surprised at some of the stuff that I've Googled. So keep that in mind. I won't call out any brands because I don't like doing that, but know what you're putting into your body. There's a lot of stuff that is common that may not be so hot. Let's talk about nutrition for the postpartum period. So not only is nutrition crucial during pregnancy, but it's probably the one thing that's super important that you can request maybe during the first 2 weeks postpartum. So the first 2 weeks postpartum, nobody should be in a gym. They should be recovering and bonding at home with baby. And this should involve all the skin to skin, all the smells, everything. Just kind of figuring out life and getting to know each other. And it's that new fall in love honeymoon phase. And just forget everything that's going on in the world behind you, in front of you, outside your windows. And whatever you have to do to make this happen, do that. And by that, what I mean here is, if you want to get meals prepared, do so. If you're having a baby shower or somebody wants to throw you a baby shower, maybe say, hey, how about everybody, instead of a gift, make a dish for us. We can freeze it and we'll put it in our freezer and save it for 2 weeks postpartum. Or some gyms like to create what's called a meal train. And one day somebody just goes over and drops off a meal. The next day, somebody else and somebody else and somebody else. And that's a really good idea. And it's such great community involvement. Mom and baby and dad or partner or whoever may not want anybody to see baby the first 2 weeks. In fact, I wouldn't. So if somebody comes over to drop food off, then I would probably say, thanks, we'll see you in about 4 weeks. Even if they're like, wait, but what? I want to see the baby. It doesn't matter. You're living in your world, and all you care about is the baby and bonding, so don't worry about anybody else. But meals are huge. I had one mom that got the book, The First 40 Days, and this book just came out, and it's got some beautiful recipes in it. And she had I guess it was her mom that was in town and staying with her. And she had her mom cook meals from this book every single day, which was an awesome just kind of instruction manual, because for many of us, if we are in the paleo world, our parents may not eat the same as us, or, if we're eating clean, our parents may not understand it. So having some sort of instruction manuals, a great option. 2 weeks postpartum. Big things we recommend during this time are bone broths, some soups, like warming soups. You can sip on bone broth, or you can make soups with it. We also recommend organ meats, red meats, things like that. anything that's warm and feels warming to the body. There's a great recipe that the paleo chef, Mary Shanuda, talks about in our podcast that's coming out soon. And it's liver with garlic and onions. And it's, if you think about it, it's just a very warming recipe. And different cultures around the world basically have teas and meals and recipes like that for the mom. And they save those recipes for this sacred time so that the inside of mom can warm back up. Many cultures around the world view the postpartum period as a cold state, where they view pregnancy as a warm state. So no matter how birth happened, once baby is out of mom and there's not an organ inside mom, there's not the placenta as the organ, there's not a baby. It's that her trunk section feels empty. And basically, cultures around the world will keep the trunk section either wrapped up, warm from the inside out, and they'll do this for about 40 days. So keep that in mind as you're recovering. And, you know, for us, a minimum of 2 weeks is mandatory, and that's only 14 days. But we'd like to see that extended. But 2 weeks minimum, take time, nourish your body, and get other people involved. The most important thing during that 2 weeks time is bonding with baby. So that's nutrition. We can definitely touch on some questions in a bit. We've talked about fitness and we've talked about nutrition. So chiropractic, what the heck? I did not just include chiropractic because I'm a chiropractor and because half of our team is chiropractors. This actually makes sense to us, and this was probably the last pillar that I put on here. And it was after that experience with that mom I shared in the beginning, but it makes so much sense. And if you ask any midwife, especially an experienced midwife, like there's one down the street from us that's been doing it probably about 20 years. And she's just like, yeah, chiropractic and midwifery goes hand in hand. But chiropractic, our definition of this means to be structurally balanced, free of subluxation, so that the nervous system can communicate and function with all systems of the body. So I'm going to grab this spine. If you can see this guy, this is your head or your skull, the base of your skull. And this would be me basically sitting here or standing here like this. But if you see that, and then you see basically the yellow inside there, that is your spinal cord coming all the way down. And then these little yellow nerves exit in between each vertebrae. Now, your vertebral column protects your spinal cord. So, simple terms, if there's a kink in the hardware here, like if one little vertebrae is rotated over, you could see how it will impact a nerve there. Okay, that's a great, very simple demonstration. But let's look at the pelvis in particular. Yes, I'm a weirdo and have all types of anatomy stuff in here, but this would be a pelvis. Definitely not to scale, but this is your vehicle for birth. This is where baby has got to come through. I used to have a doll around here, but I don't know what happened to it. So if you've ever fallen on your booty, snowboarders, skiers, anybody like that, this area right here, definitely, I've seen scar tissue, even if the fall was 6, 7, 8 years ago. These two joints right here, your sacroiliac joints, they're designed to move, this one doesn't move, about 4 to 6 millimeters. So if these joints aren't moving, if one, let's say your right side is all fixated and this joint's locked up, then it's going to put pressure on the front. It's going to put pressure on the inside. It's going to put stress all around. Your uterus hangs out in this pelvic bowl, and it's suspended kind of like a hammock to every bony prominence via ligaments. So if, I don't know if you can see my shirt, but if, let's say if the ligament in back is pulling this, then I can feel the tension in this shirt all the way down, basically to where I tucked it in my pants. So think about that. You know, as we talked about, there's definitely 3 planes of motion. So if the horizontal plane is being pulled one way, frontal plane the other, sagittal the other, then stuff's getting just so torqued and twisted on the inside, and that's going to cut down space basically right on top of the cervix, or space that baby can move around in and get in the ideal position for birth. So musculoskeletal system, simplest terms, this is your vehicle for birth. We want this optimally functioning for labor and delivery. We want baby to be able to move around and have as much real estate as baby wants, so that he or she, or both of them, can find a head down position, or booty down, as some like to do, that is optimal for labor and delivery for mom and baby. Now, the crazy part is that this can start to happen as soon as 25, 26, 27 weeks pregnant. The unfortunate thing is, a lot of times, OB-GYNs or even midwives won't catch or let a woman know what position her baby is in until maybe 32, 34, 36 weeks pregnant. And by that time, baby has grown a ton and mom's running out of room. So the sooner we can start to make adjustments to mom's musculoskeletal system, the sooner mom's body can start to function as it's designed to, and the sooner baby can start to get in a head down position for birth. I hope that makes sense. People always ask me, what would be the ideal chiropractic plan? We demand a lot on our bodies, from training, from being a mom. Let's say if you already have 2 kiddos, from working. So ideally, I would say once a week while you're pregnant. Now, I know that stresses people out, and I know that people are like, oh, there's no way I can get to a chiropractor. So without a doubt, if you are injured, or if you, let's say if you've had a surgery within the last year, or if you've had an injury within the last year, then you definitely need to be working with a chiropractor and somebody that knows what's going on with your body. If none of those, and you're just found out you're pregnant, then definitely visit a chiropractor in the first trimester. And you may have to go for a follow-up or 2 follow-ups just as things kind of sort themselves out. Then I would get in to see the chiropractor again around the beginning of the 2nd trimester. And then let's say around weeks 25 to 27, that's when I would start the once a week chiropractic sessions. And that's because you want baby and mom to be working with each other to get an ideal position for labor and delivery. Most chiropractors will suggest once a week, especially starting around that time. Chiropractic. There are certain things that I would look for prenatal postpartum chiropractor. Webster is a great thing to look for if they're Webster certified. This means they've done an extra weekend course into the Webster technique. I'd also look for DNS if they have any experience, whether it's exercise or professional, through DNS, dynamic neuromuscular stabilization. Or if they're a BIRTHFIT professional. And hopefully by this time next year, we'll have a ton more. But most BIRTHFIT professionals will be exposed not only into chiropractic adjustments, but also DNS and soft tissue work. So it's very, very hard to find kind of that, I guess, that triple threat, if you will, where it's chiro adjustments, soft tissue, and rehab. So you may have to, like, I don't have anybody in LA that does that. I have somebody that does great chiropractic adjustments. I have somebody else that does soft tissue work. And then I do my own rehab exercises. So you gotta look around. And if you need help, definitely ask somebody. That's chiropractic. The last pillar, which is by far the most important pillar, would be the mindset pillar. And of course, I want to say chiropractic is the most important, or nutrition is the most important. But without a doubt, hands down, mindset is the most important pillar. This means to embrace a daily practice that focuses on your breath and the present moment, so that you may evolve from your life's experiences and obstacles and keep progressing with a growth mindset. So there are two great books, and I say two because after going to the Birthfit Coach seminar in Dallas, I checked out The Obstacle Way, and that is a brilliant book. The Obstacle is the Way. That's the title of it. But what we make everybody on our team read is this book called Mindset by Carol Dweck. And it talks about the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. And if you just go on YouTube and type that in, there's some awesome TED Talks about that. But basically, the simplest, most straightforward example of this I can give you in the birth world that I hear all the time is fixed mindset. I'm going to have a C-section because my mom and my sister had a C-section. C-sections, I hate to break it to you, sweetie, but C-sections do not run in the family. Your genes do not determine a C-section. Now, if you say that and you don't employ any practices or techniques to go the other route, then 100% I'll say yes, you'll probably have a C-section. It's the same thing with I'm not good at math. Well, I'm not good at math, so I'm not going to study math. So therefore, I'm definitely not going to get better at math. Those are fixed mindset traits. Growth mindset. This is hilarious because I've been using this a lot on my, I'm trying to incorporate the left side of my body more. And instead of saying, this is my bad side or my bad leg, then I say, this is the room for opportunity side. There's a lot of room for growth. So if I do a cartwheel on the left side, and I've been working with this guy for gymnastics stuff, his first reaction was, oh, we could have done that better. Like, absolutely, there's a lot of room for growth there. So having that shift or just that perspective that there's a room for growth, a room for opportunity is huge. And applying that to every kind of aspect of your life. What kind of, I don't want to say what kind of bugs us, but what really bugs us is when we get emails or questions about how can I be birth fit, or how can I be birth fit? I know I need some fitness help, but I've got nutrition dialed. And it's like that right there indicates that there's a fixed mindset around the nutrition world. Or I'm good on the mindset, but I could use some help with finding a chiropractor. So you're set on everything else. Like you've reached a ceiling on everything else, but you could just use help locating a chiropractor. So for us, all four of these pillars are constantly evolving. We can always progress, always evolve to new levels, always grow in each of them. And therefore we can always not like evolve ourselves personally, evolve our relationships, and it's a continual growth process. So there's no, I like to say, yes, you're birth fit by employing all four of these pillars. And it's just integrating all of these four pillars into your everyday lifestyle choices. These four pillars can be integrated for a mom, a dad, a teenager, somebody that's 60 years old and not planning on having kids. BirthFit works for, it's universal, works for everyone. but we concentrate on the motherhood transition. And without a doubt, I promise you that at some point in the motherhood transition, that you will be challenged and your core will be rocked, your foundation will be rocked, and you'll have to go through the toughest obstacle of your life. And I say this, it may not be the toughest obstacle physically, but it may be emotionally, it may be mentally. But at some point throughout pregnancy and the first year postpartum, you will have to dig deep and soul search and really find out what you're made of. And for some, this comes in the form of, maybe mom has done everything. Maybe she's employed all 4 pillars, and she gets to 32 weeks, baby's breech, gets to 34 weeks, baby's still breech, gets to 36 weeks, baby's breech, and she was planning a home birth. So in California, midwives aren't allowed to deliver breech babies at home. In some other states they are, but that's just law here in California. So this mom had to make some tough decisions at this point. So she went, she went, sorry, I changed the screen. She went around, consulted with a few docs that would deliver at home or hospital breech babies. She found out her options for a cesarean, and she basically weighed her risk and benefits. This mom ended up delivering a breech baby vaginally at home. Now, that was the birth and everything. She said once she got it in her mind that she was going to deliver at home, then making that decision was the most challenging, soul-searching thing she did. Birth just added to that. Now, for some, it may come in the form of maybe a little birth injury or something in the postpartum period. I had one mama who had a great vaginal birth, but had a birth injury where she basically sprained her pelvis. She's never experienced an inactive day in her life. Even her recovery days were walks on the beach. So for her to be inactive, even with the little sprained pelvis, even walking from the bedroom to the bathroom was challenging for her. So that was a huge soul-searching event for her. But each of these women, and I share these 2 stories with you because each of these women had these 4 pillars in place, and they had been practicing them. And without them, I don't think they could have consciously made decisions or gotten through these obstacles without that growth mindset, or be so empowered and educated to make decisions that that they really were proud of. So that's why I share those things. Before I shut up and let you ask any questions, I want to share with you that BirthFit is a movement. It is expecting and postpartum moms taking charge of their life, their bodies, their decisions, and then supporting the women that are also within their communities, their next door on their street, at their gyms, at their work, etc. Women supporting women. BirthFit is a method. It's like a roadmap, an approach to motherhood transition. We are also your support team, and we want to give you all the information, from our experiences, our research, everything, so that you can make decisions for yourself and your family. Whatever those decisions are, we support you. What I choose for my birth may not be the same that you choose for your birth, and that's okay. But without a doubt, I will 100% support your conscious choices. And then, just like I said, the word choice there, BirthFit is a choice, and it's not for everyone. But I guarantee those that choose to be BirthFit by employing all 4 pillars and creating daily practices will have more freedom or create more freedom on the other side through this discipline, through this hard work, through showing up for yourself day in and day out. Because the relationship you keep with yourself and that you maintain and evolve with yourself is the most important. And that's what's going to allow you to be the best mom, the best sister, the best partner in this world. So that's all I have to say. If you have any questions, definitely type them, ask me. We've got time. Oh, and as y'all think of some questions, I do want to share with y'all a few more things. People always ask me how you can become BirthFit. And I kind of break it down into like dollar signs, because some people want to be BirthFit, but they don't want to spend any money. And you can certainly do that. You can follow the blogs, you can follow the podcasts, you can follow us on social media, and integrate all 4 pillars into your life, and boom, there you go. But looking at those 4 pillars, I would start to look at your life, look at these 4 pillars, and prioritize things. And like we said, keep in mind that the relationship with yourself is the most important. If you want to spend a little money, maybe you go the route of online consultations and get some advice from some of the doctors and experts on our team, and then integrate those into your life. We have wonderful consultations that are like stupidly cheap. They're like $49, and these women are like Dr. Erica, a pelvic floor and core expert. Like, she's traveled the world doing this stuff, studying this stuff, and by far one of the best core and pelvic floor experts in the United States, if not the world. And we're lucky to have her on our team. I won't ever let her go, but she charges a $49 consultation, and it's crazy. If you're interested in becoming BirthFit, whether a regional director or a BirthFit coach or a BirthFit professional, Dr. Muma has consults where she can talk you through what this may look like in your life or your practice or your coaching environment. Gina, a certified clinical nutritionist, brilliant. Mel, eating psychology. Both of those are like, they're $49 each, and tons of information. So consultations it's like a steal, really. But we are adding a running consultation. If you've met Coach Nast, you know that she loves running, bless her heart. And she's studied it a lot. So she's going to be offering running consultations. And then we also have programming online for prenatal and postpartum. And if you're newly pregnant and want to check out the prenatal program, if you use the code prenatal20, all caps, it'll take $20 off the whole thing. But our programming's designed for the mom. It's not just, sub these movements or 3 movements put together that make no sense. There's a rhyme and a reason to each day, to each week, and to the whole big picture. We have prenatal and postpartum. Prenatal has 40 weeks, postpartum has 15 weeks. And then if you're near a regional director, then go see them, steal their time from them. Maybe not steal their time, but go meet them and take them up on their services in person. So either their classes, like the prenatal series or the postpartum series, because this is your community. This is your environment. And these women know, they've got fingers into all that's going on within the birth world in your city or community. And there's honestly, there's nothing quite like a BirthFit postpartum series when you have moms that have given birth 6 weeks ago or 10 weeks ago, and you've got 4 to 8 in a class, and everybody's just sharing stories, but also supporting each other and relating and lifting each other up. So definitely go to our website and check out the regional director page. I think that's huge. But that's kind of the price breakdown. If you want like free to a little bit more money, and then if you're all in, just get all in with those regional directors in your area. Yeah, so that's all I got for you. If this recorded, then I will definitely share this with everybody via the group email. If you have any questions that have come up, or maybe you write a little bit after this, then email us, info@birthfit.com, and we're happy to answer any questions. And you can find us on Facebook at BirthFit or Instagram at BirthFit. I'll get better at Twitter one day, maybe. But yeah, follow us, reach out to us, and we're so glad that you're part of this BirthFit movement. Bye, guys.